Chiefs, brought to you by Sheehan's Rustproofing. The Chiefs have just come out on the ice for a warm-up period. They're about to try for their 5th consecutive win. They're getting a good round of applause from their own booster club, who have traveled all the way from Charlestown to be here in Peterborough tonight.
Need more energy throughout the day? Looking for a kick to your workout? RockinThatIDLife.com has you covered with delicious flavors you've grown to love in tropical fruit and mixed berry, but now fall in love with the new fruit punch and orange flavors. Try them all at RockinThatIDLife.com.
Realtor Mike Burgoyne with Real Brokerage LLC makes the moving process easier. Work with a realtor who plays and studies the game and will work as hard as the boys on the ice to get you the best deal. Check out Mike on the web at strikewithmike.com and jumpstart your move today. That's strikewithmike.com. Welcome to episode 14 of season 11. This is episode number 390 all time of the often imitated, never duplicated G-Brain. What do you want to do tonight? We're the original St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Special thanks to our sponsors, RockinThatIDLife.com, StrikeWithMike.com, and CenterIceBrewery.com. Thank you for proudly sponsoring the show. Please do check them out. Also, do not forget to check out our t-shirt shop at Let'sGoBlues.com for the very best blues-themed t-shirts at a fair price. It is Wednesday, December 28th, and we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. To interact with the show on social media, our handle is on the socials is at LGB Radio. Just do a search for us, you'll find us. I'm Kurt Price, and my co-host for the big show tonight is Bill Day. Jeff Ponder is tending to some private family matters tonight, so our thoughts are definitely with him and his family as we do this show tonight. The agenda for tonight includes discussion about a couple of overtime losses to the Toronto Maple Leafs and Vegas Knights, a pair of 5-4 OTLs, and an OTL and a shootout loss. The NHL is richer thanks to Sheldon Keefe and Toronto Maple Leafs. The Blues are quietly playing some better hockey. Is anybody noticing? Or maybe I'm just on an island with that. And Perunovic and Scandella are currently on the LTIR, but they're skating. Pre-practice drills. Kind of way ahead of schedule. We'll talk about that a little bit. All that more on this thrilling episode of Let's Go Blues Radio. Bill, you're decked out in your. How are you? How was your Christmas? First of all, are you wearing Christmas?
I am wearing Christmas. Christmas, man, it came and went in a flash. Had as usual had a great haul in terms of the gifts, and because that's what Christmas is all about, right? Not spending time with family and all that stuff.
Getting is the key
right.
to Christmas, right?
Getting is it's that staying up until 1 a.m. wrapping present stuff that's for the birds. No, it was great. Had family over. And we do every year at my place have Julie's family over and my family if things allow, and this year both my parents were here, so that's pretty awesome. It's been tough to get them both together over the last year. They're both in assisted living places separately, so but yeah, always do a prime rib on the grill, and it came out perfectly this year, so
nice.
Yeah, I was looking forward to having some leftovers on poutine tonight, but my stomach had other plans. So,
what I've been doing? I've been making some homemade pasta. I got myself a pasta maker.
You got a pasta maker?
A pasta machine, yeah. It's cool. It's fun. My daughter loves slicing the pasta as it comes out, and it's a lot of fun. Cooks really fast. 3 minutes done. But it's fun. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference when it comes to fresh pasta. Like if you've never made it or never had something fresh, it is one of the fastest things you can make. So
yeah, I mean
at least once you put it in the water.
Right. Yeah, it does take about 10-15 minutes or so for the machine to make it and spit it all out. So but yeah, no, Christmas was good for me. I had a good time. Lots of giving, lots of getting. So fun was had by all. So, and I am not didn't get too sick, and my kids have been sick off and on, so that's That's been a fun ride. I think I got a little bit of it from them, so I'm trying to deal with that right now.
Yeah, we had I had one extra guest this year because some of my uncles had come to town, and we're planning on getting together at one of my aunt's house, and she came down with COVID. So yeah, we were able to host my Uncle Joe, who's in from North Carolina. It's really nice. He, I think only the second of the extended family that's got to see the new place, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, that sickness, man, it's going through everywhere, whether it's COVID, RSV, or the flu.
Yep.
I don't know a single person who doesn't at least have somebody that they're close to who's not been knocked out by it.
Matt Harris giving an old dad joke in the YouTube chat. Pasta, I thought he was in Boston. Wah,
Yeah.
wah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you ever get to play in a celebrity pro-am game, you can escape by him and say, "Who's your daddy?"
Who should? Yeah,
I'm
made
your daddy
you
because I made you.
Matt Harris says in the chat. Also, I have to give you boys credit. This is the most on time you've been to a show. Wow, the most on time we've been to a show is like 15 minutes late. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think right now the expectation is 9:30, and we were on at 9:31. So.
Yeah. So we say 9:15 ish, and that's what we mean ish. Rarely is it 9:15, 9:20. It's 9:25, 9:30 at the earliest. Just because it's the podcast. We could put up, we could at 9:15 we could put up the starting soon thing and just loop it.
Right.
Could do that.
It would probably drive people insane.
It probably would. Some shows do that, on YouTube. They'll have shows, they'll have like 5-10 minutes of just like, about to start. And I think that allows people to, the YouTube notification goes out and allows people the time to jump in before the show starts. So I get that in that respect. But yeah.
So there's some strategery there,
I guess. But I'm like, yeah, we have our little intro and our spiel. That gives people time if they need it. I don't think either of us has a beer this evening, so there's no official beers. Is there a beverage at all? Do you have water?
There is cucumber mint, Good and Gather sparkling water. This is
the official beverage of episode number 390.
Yes. Yeah. Well, mine for me, and yours is hot toddy minus bourbon.
Yes. Yeah, hot tea with some honey. Yep. No lemon. Didn't have any lemon. Lemon juice. I always forget about lemon juice. I have lemon juice, but not lemons.
Easy to forget.
Yeah, it is. I was like, do you have any lemons? No, I do not.
Yeah. So no ponder, no beers, and yeah, we're on time. So that's the trade-off. A little older, a little wiser, a little more on time, less drug.
Right. Exactly. The Blues did suffer a couple of overtime losses. We will get into that after this important message from our friends over at the ID Life.
Every beer league hockey night, I grab my hockey bag and sticks and throw them in the trunk of my car. And the very next thing I do, I mix up a boost of energy courtesy of RockinThatIDLife.com. It's formulated to break up its delivery in 3 ways, which helps me get through all 3 periods of hockey. Phase 1 provides a rapid onset of energy, concentration, alertness, and motivation. By period 2, I'm receiving a dose of sustained energy, increased focus, metabolism, cognitive function, performance, and feelings of well-being, which I need with the way I play. In Phase 3, I'm getting fatigue protection without jitters and crash, an elevated mood, and a reduction of fluid retention to help me make the big play when it counts. This same triphasic approach helps me when I drink it during work hours or simply just for a pick-me-up when I need it. Try one of the 4 energy flavors by visiting RockinThatIDLife.com, but make sure to email Dustin at RockinThatIDLife@gmail.com and tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you to receive an additional 10% off your order. That's RockinThatIDLife.com.
Matt Harris is wishing you all well. Stop with all the crud and feel better. Damn it, yeah. If it were only that easy. I've actually been pretty lucky as far as dodging a lot of this crap. My kids have been sick off and on for a while, and I've been fine. until just recently. I think Amy gave me something. I blame her.
Right. Not the kids.
No,
It-
can't be the kids.
Always,
It's gotta be
it's
Amy.
always the significant other.
Yeah. So Scott Prunovich and Marco Scandella were injured prior to the season starting. I don't think anybody cared really about Scandella a whole lot about missing time. But personally, I was upset about Prunovich. I thought he was going to be a nice little. Yeah, there's another small puck moving forward, but I mean, it's if you're not going to be big on defense, just throw a bunch of speed and puck movement at him, and maybe you can outscore him. But that was one less guy I thought Prunovich could have played. Maybe somebody waives a no trade clause later on, and maybe they move Krug if Prunovich pans out and plays well. Who knows? But JR tweeted today that Berube said of Prunovich and Scandella, who took part in pre-practice drills yesterday, which said Tuesday. Berube said they're coming along well, and they're going to be coming out with us sooner than later. And they were supposed to be out until the last week or two of the season. And if it's sooner rather than later, I mean, we're a few months away from the end of the season. So they're not going to be skating with the team for doing these pre-practice drills for 2 or 3 months. They're going to, I don't know. I don't, you never know. They didn't announce any kind of timetable whatsoever, but you got to think they're within a month away if they're doing pre-practice drills right now. Right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
Yeah. You don't tease it out that long, right? You're gonna have somebody, one of those two guys is gonna be in the lineup by the end of January. I mean, that at this point you've got to think that, right? But then you also have to think, well, if it's Prunovich, he'll be right back on the IR because
oh God.
It's so much potential. So much potential. I want him so badly to pan out. He looked so great in that series against Colorado last year.
Yep. Could be our best power play quarterback.
Oh,
if healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think he is.
Yeah.
At least sample size last year.
At least distributor of the puck.
Right.
Falk and Krugman have better shots, but he's by far the best passer. So
yes.
It's exciting. I was looking forward to seeing him play this year. So, and then I was disappointed to hear that he might only make the last week of the season. But now I get to see a lot more of him. So that's good stuff. So we'll see. Overtime losses. The Blues had 2 of them in a row, both 5-4, both versus very good teams. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The 5-4 loss to the Vegas Knights was a shootout loss. It was a good game. I thought the Blues got goal. I didn't think the Blues did get goals from Buchnevich, Tarasenko, Falk, and Achari. Knights got goals from Pietrangelo, Stone, Amadio, and Stevenson. The game was tied 3-3 midway through the third period when Achari scored on a deflection in front off a shot from Saad. McNabb and Pietrangelo I watched this on replay, and we always like to criticize the Blues defense. So I always like to I take comfort in seeing other teams just completely blow assignments and just not like, what are you doing? And this is from, Pietrangelo and McNabb. Achari just skated right past both of them and camped out between both of them and the net, and they just let him stand there, just untouched, unchallenged, and he deflected the shot from Saad into the net. So I was like, yeah, that's, if I were a Knights fan, I'd be on the defense for kind of like just ignoring Achari. So,
yeah, Pietrangelo channeling his inner Pareko there.
Very much so. Even though I think it was more McNabb's guy, but still, Pietrangelo was like, yeah, the shot's coming, and he's just standing there. And Chandler Stevenson for Vegas had 4 points on the night. I got the game tying goal on the power play with the goalie pulled to make it a 6-on-4 advantage for Vegas with about a minute and a half left in regulation. Pietrangelo shoots wide from left point. Puck bounced off the end boards out back the other side of the net where Stevenson was camped out, and one times it in the open side. Kind of a bad. I mean, this is not. Sometimes these plays are set. This one wasn't set. This wasn't an on-purpose play. So kind of just a terrible bad bounce. Stevenson, right place, right time, I guess, for this. Good execution based on the puck location, I guess, on their part. But how do you defend this play? It seems almost impossible to me because you're defending against the shot, and the shot barely goes wide. It didn't go wide by much, maybe a foot or less. And
you have to. Yeah, it's one of those things that you really can't do it, right? It is the definition of a broken play, and what that I fear that it had a very detrimental effect going into the game against Toronto, which we'll cover in great detail as we get there. But that was kind of the theme. Bad coverage around the goal on broken plays, right? People just scrambling like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's not going to plan. And I think that Stevenson goal may have rattled them, right? Defending a lead late in the game and give it up and then lose it in overtime. It's damaging.
Yeah, and no scoring in the overtime, and it goes to a shootout. Blues had a couple chances to win the shootout. Blues score first. I don't know who scored for. Was it Tarasenko? Who scored? I forgot. Anyway, Blues are up 1-0 in the shootout. If Bennington can make that last save, Blues win. He can't. And then if O'Reilly scores, then that will put the Blues up again, and he didn't. And then Stone, of all fucking people, comes in and wins it for Vegas. As he was coming in, I turned to Amy and I was like, anybody with fucking Stone, and he scores. I'm like, God damn it! I got up and I punched the wall. I don't do that. Yeah, that's something I did years ago, right? I was standing, watching the shootout, and he comes in. I was just more mad it was Stone. It wasn't so much that they lost. I mean, I was mad they lost, but it was Stone, and I'm like, God, fuck. And so I just walked by the bunch, punched the wall. I still have a mark on my knuckle. It's right on the knuckle too, so it's like takes forever to heal.
Those are the worst. Were you in a private residence or were you in public?
I was in my house. Yeah. So I'm allowed to punch my wall.
Yeah. I've given up on that. After getting more and more expensive things in the house, I'm like, yeah. Well, my thing used to be punching, and then it sort of became throwing, and I'm not gonna. Yeah, I've learned that out of myself.
I punched the corner too, the corner of a wall. So it's real solid.
It's even worse.
Well, I don't want to put a hole in the drywall. That's not what I want. I don't want to do that.
Reinforcement there, probably.
A metal reinforced corner plus the corner joist, the corner stud. So yeah.
There's no give.
It wasn't. It wasn't a full-fledged punch. It was just a son of a bitch punch. I don't know how to describe it. But so I was not disappointed with the way the Blues played in this game. I thought it was a good game. Vegas is in first place in their division. I think Vegas said if they played sloppy, whatever. I thought it was a good game. And I thought the Blues played well and just happened to lose to a really good team. So in their building, in Vegas's building. So I thought, in hindsight, looking at this game, it's like, well, yeah, you've got a lead late. I mean, you want to win. Obviously, you got the lead late, but then once you settle down after the game is over, and you're like, okay, it was Vegas in their building, and Blues are just trying to get points. And I think if you were to say we get an overtime loss in Vegas before the game starts, you'd be like, okay, I wouldn't hate that. You want the win, obviously, but having to leave with a minute and a half to go and then losing in overtime in the shootout, that's it just kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I also discount it for the fact that it's the end of a long 5-game Western road trip, right? And right before Christmas, so. It's I don't want to say to let off the gas, but it's easier, I think, to take from a fan perspective. When you put that context around it, they've just played an amazing trip, right? And they got 7 of 10 points, even with the shootout loss. So
I think once you take the emotion of a fan, that you're mad they lost out of it, and you kind of sit back and you just kind of analyze it, and you're like, okay, let's be rational and calm and settle down, and they played a good game, and it's I don't want to say I'm settling for a point, or I'm happy with the point, or at least they got a point, because you can't really say at least they got a point when you had a minute and a half to go in the game with the lead. So, and my daughter is listening to the show apparently. The Blues did great against Toronto.
Yeah.
And
we should bring her on to debate that point.
Yeah, I thought they played better against Vegas than against Toronto, but and we'll get to the Toronto game in a minute, but it was an up and down game, I thought, for the Blues against Toronto.
Yeah, so. I thought with maybe one or two exceptions, the forwards, the Blues had a really good game. Defense, not so much, but
yeah. That's the first time I thought I was ever so I could watch my language on the show.
It's a good thing Potter's not here.
That's true. Yeah.
He's the trigger. He's the trigger for all things bad on Let's Go Blues Radio.
He is. He triggers all these debates, these arguments, and these heated discussions. The stuff that gets ratings. So, and we will discuss the 5-4 overtime loss versus the Leafs on the other side of this break. From Mark Burgoyne at strikewithmike.com.
The magical 2019 playoff run, I was in the midst of buying my current home. Every time I spoke with my realtor, obviously, home buying was the discussion. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about what was destined to happen for our St. Louis hockey team. If only there were a realtor who could have walked me through the process, held my hand when needed, but was there to be a sounding board when I wanted to complain about a certain hand pass goal. Let realtor Mike Burgoyne with Real Brokerage be that for you. He'll have your needs top of mind as he skates you through the home buying or selling process, dangling you past any obstacles, and assisting on all your home goals. Check out strikewithmike.com for more information, or give him a call directly at 314-753-4060. That's Mike Burgoyne with Real Brokerage at strikewithmike.com, and that number again is 314-753-4060. Don't forget to tell Mike that Let's Go Blues Radio sent you.
Matt Harris in the YouTube chat says Blues are actually playing like they're being paid to be there. I'll take the 2 points from two really good teams, and that's kind of what I'm kind of reflecting on. Is that that they did play two really good teams, got 2 points total. And before that, they lost to Seattle, and Seattle's actually playing very well. If Seattle were to win their games in hand they have against on Vegas, they'd be in first place in their division. So.
Yeah, it's a team that nobody had any real big expectations for, but man, Hackstall's putting a really good product out there. Although they're losing 1-0 against Calgary right now.
Yeah, and they have 5 games in hand, I think it is, on Vegas. They're 9 points behind Vegas with 5 games in hand. So it's a lot of games in hand to win to take over first place, but still, my point remains.
Right. They'll be a fun team to debate come trade deadline time, right?
Yeah.
Do they try to, leverage some assets? Tie game now. Donato just scored. But do they want to give up on the blueprint because they might think they can make a push into the playoffs? Man, if I'm them, I'm sitting pretty tight. As much as I hate the idea that Adam Larson is my number one defenseman, but man, the way they're playing right now, this is all gravy. If I'm Ron Francis, I don't make a move.
I think the one thing they need to improve on is, and the Blues do, is their PK. I think their PK has got awful. I was looking at the stats. They're dead last. They're either dead last in PK this season or dead last in PK since November 10th. Something like that. So yeah, it's not good.
Aren't we still dead last?
No.
We're not. We climbed out of that?
We will talk about that shortly. I don't think we're dead last overall. So the 5-4 overtime loss to Toronto on Tuesday. Jordan Kyrou was a game time decision and was in the lineup this game after missing the previous 2 with an upper body injury. Torrey Krug was out of this game. It was announced earlier that day that he would be out for about 6 weeks with a lower body injury. suffered late in the Vegas game. It's kind of a shocker. Although, with the way their timetables are going for hurt players, he should be back in about 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
Everyone's back way before they say. Toropchenko back way sooner. And Prunovich apparently, and Scandella apparently back way sooner. Callie Rosen got the start in this game, place of Krug, which was, I like Callie Rosen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go on that. I'm gonna go out and I'm a Callie Rosen fan.
You celebrate his entire catalog.
That's exactly what I was. What's funny is that I said that, and I'm thinking, and I couldn't pin the movie, but I knew the quote, and then you got it, and I was like, oh, if I had actually remember that was from Office Space, I would have actually done the whole. Yeah, I celebrate his entire catalog.
That's what I'm here for.
So good.
I'm not just a third wheel.
I like him. I thought I liked him a lot versus Colorado in playoffs last year. I think he's a nice addition to this defense. I think he's, if he gets the playing time, he's one of our better defensive defensemen. And he takes chances offensively. I like his his confidence.
I wish he would play more in place of Mikkola than he does. Mikkola, he seems to be trending in the right direction, but Rosen, when he's in, he's solid game in, game out.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the latter day Carl Gunnarsson, right? He delivered solid performances. After he finally shed the "damn it, Carl" moniker, he delivered great performances. Well, not great, but solid defensive performances, and chipped in with timely goals.
Offensively, it's going to hurt a little bit with not having Krug in lineup. He was, he is an offensive guy. He's a quarterback guy and the power play guy.
Great
5 points.
Passer.
Yeah, and 5 points in his last 4 games. So he's going to be out for a while. So Rosen will probably stand to get a lot of playing time. So hopefully he takes a good advantage of that. Toronto. After that, I saw this today. Toronto was fined $100,000 for flying to St. Louis a day early when the entire league was supposed to be on a no travel day. They got here early instead of flying in early on game day. What they were doing, they didn't want to travel on game day early, and said, "We'll take the $100,000 fine. We're Toronto." Right.
And Austin Matthews is like, what? Why are we going to St. Louis early?
Yeah, right. So and it's funny because on social media you see everyone's like, "Oh, they cheated because JR was like, I thought they looked well rested." So and maybe flying in a day early helped them.
And
so
the richest team in the league by far, right? Why not eat that? It's strategery.
Must be nice. We don't buy out contracts because we're not,
right.
They'll drop $100,000 just to fly a day early. Must be nice. So I mentioned earlier, I thought this was an up and down game for the Blues. Good game, exciting game, close game. I thought the Blues looked really good at times in this game, and I thought they looked really embarrassing at a few moments in this game too. But especially on Kerfoot's shorthanded goal, where the Blues were on the power play and allowed a 3-on-1, and were slow getting back on that. And when they did get back, they didn't cover anybody. And Kerfoot has this ridiculous, mighty might level goal that just no one takes the guy in front, and the puck's behind Bennington, and he swipe backhands it, and it just barely trickles in. It's goofy Keystone Cops kind of a little goal. So it pissed me off.
Again, I alluded to it earlier. It just bad freak out coverage. Play breaks down a little bit, and people, get running around just out of position just a little bit and forget how to hockey. And yeah, that was an embarrassing goal to give up.
Yeah, well, they get back and then nobody covers anybody. I mean, they all got back. I mean, by the time the goal was scored, we had players back, but nobody was actually covering anybody.
Yeah.
So,
what what do you do other than hustle back? Oh, I got back. Yeah. Get on your guy, right? Cut the lane. Don't let them have an easy tap in at the back. Well, it's not even at the back door. He was standing in the middle of the damn crease.
I know, right?
And able to tip it in.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
And that was bad on the power play too. It's just bad. Berube said after the game that shorthanded goal hurt. That's just not smart hockey there by us. And in a nutshell, yeah, not smart hockey. In other words, dumb hockey. The Blues did come from behind in this game a couple times, trailing 1-0 and then tied at 1, and then 3-1 in the second period when O'Reilly and Fox scored within 2 minutes of each other to tie it at 3-3. Then Calle Yarncroc got his 7th of the season for Toronto later in the second, and it was 4-3 going into the third. And then Jordan Kyrou, which I thought the thing surrounding this goal was funny to me. Kyrou scores at 5:13 into the third, tied up, nice goal, beautiful shot, top shelf, near post. Thomas is screening in front, and then Toronto head coach Sheldon Keefe absolutely loses his shit, screaming that there was interference. And I'm thinking when you could read his lips, he's doing the the cross interference signal with his hands, and I'm like, there's interference there, and so they show the replay, and I'm like, okay, I didn't see interference. Show another replay. Interference where? Is it goal interference or player interference or what's he talking about? And if it's goal interference, he could challenge. But so it wasn't goal interference.
Clearly
he's saying it was somewhere else. And I'm looking, and the only possible situation he could have been talking about was Thomas. And there was no one. There was nothing. There was no interference. Not even nothing close. And so I looked at replays on NHL.com. I'm looking. I'm like, where is this interference? Because he lost it. He like they had given up an offside goal that the 6 foot offside that they ruled onside, and they lost in overtime in a playoff game. It was that level of crazy. And I'm like, man, he is really. They've got to be. When I first saw him, I'm like, well, surely there's interference there, and they just missed it. I couldn't find anything close to interference. I have no idea what he's talking about. I don't. Did you see interference?
I did not. I couldn't figure it out, and I did see the 4-minute, double minor high sticking penalty that I'd called just a few minutes later.
That was Saad's high stick, was it, or who was that? Yeah, Saad's high stick.
Saad on. Was that Kerfoot again?
I don't know. It could have been.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, he came off a bloody mess, blood pouring out of his mouth, and yes, Sheldon Keefe rightfully upset, right, that was missed. However,
right,
his level of anger didn't seem to fit the situation. It was a missed call. Happens all the time. Yeah, it was a bad missed call, but you can't get any more angry than he was, screaming and yelling. He was anger from the movie Inside Out. That's what he was on the bench. He was going ballistic and over a missed call. I'm like, it's a tie. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's a high, strong guy. I don't know. Or maybe things were said or done earlier in the game and it was like the last straw for him in that game.
Or maybe he knows that they're already on the hook for $100,000 and he wants to get his money's worth. Maybe. After Kyrou's goal, that gives him 11 points, 7 goals, 4 assists in his past 5 games, and he played 21:02 in his first game back after missing a couple. Actually, Sheldon Keefe was fined $25,000 for his outburst after that missed call on the ice. Yeah, he wanted to throw in a little bit more.
Well, you know what? Rightfully so. I thought he was fine because I'm watching it and I'm thinking, okay, I love passion in sports. I love passion from players and coaches. It was over the top. It was just like, I don't. I mean, yes, it was a bad missed call, but I'm like, oh my god, oh my, it was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for him about how he was acting. You don't see coaches that upset. This is like have another donut. This is worse than have another donut.
Brian Roberts, Wes McCauley sucks and is the new Tim Peel, but he says fight cool, so that makes him good. I love Wes McCauley's penalty calls.
I do too. I like Wes McCauley too, and just because of the way he calls penalties, or reviews. Actually, how he announces goals or no goals, offside, onside.
Yeah. He throws that little bit of suspense in there. He's a showman.
Yes, he is. That's cool. Okay, so Brian Roberts says there was a pick not too long before the goal. It was super small, but they got called for a mini pick in playoffs. See, I saw that, and that I didn't even think that was a pick. That was two guys that kind of bumped into each other. I didn't see it as a pick. I remember that play, Brian, and I saw on the replay, and it was long before the goal. Had nothing to do with the goal. And I didn't see it as a pick. I saw it as two guys skating with equal right to the ice and kind of bumped into each other, and they both kind of spun off each other. I didn't think it affected anything at all, actually. But Ken Morris says Kurt's voice sounds like he has a cold. I do have a cold. I'm going for the sexy DJ voice right now. The midnight if I were working a radio station, I'd be the midnight to 4 a.m. shift guy.
Pillow Talk with Kurt
Pillow
Price.
Talk, Kurt Price. So this game went overtime. Tarasenko had his pocket picked in his own zone along the far boards. Didn't look like he knew what he wanted to do with the puck, and kind of froze. Nylander snuck up on him and stripped the puck away. Came in all alone on Binnington with speed and smoked him with a little forehand, backhand deke and up high over the blocker. Game over. 5-4 Toronto. That was bad play by Tarasenko.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. Nylander knew what he wanted to do, and he knew that Tarasenko didn't know what he wanted to do. And great move by Willie Nylander. Like you said, forehand, backhand. Binnington bid on it, but Tarasenko knew, it's like he gave up the second that he tried to hustle back, and he knew he wasn't going to catch him, and you could see how angry he was at himself, and rightfully so, because I'm still mad at him. That was one of the worst plays I've seen all year, especially by somebody who's supposed one of the leadership of this team. Just got awful, right?
Can't let that happen.
Yeah. The other thing I think we need to mention is penalty shot in overtime. Right.
Right.
The TJ Brody gets hauled down by Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah, tackled, hauled down. Right.
That was a proper penalty, and a rightful penalty shot call.
Right. I agree. Which Panger seemed to disagree. Did you catch that?
He was trying to.
He was trying to
himself into it at the end.
I'm he wanted to be a homer so bad, and I was like, come on, Pag. That was easy. He tackled him from behind.
And it was kind of the same way on the double minor high sticking. He's like, at first I didn't see it, but that's a miss.
Yes, right.
But yeah, no, I think that's kind of if Kyrou really read the situation, it's kind of a brilliant play, right? Tackle the defenseman who's on a breakaway,
right,
and give him the penalty shot. You don't
instead of
you don't give up the 2 minute man advantage,
right?
And that's great strategy.
I agree with you.
I don't know if he meant it, but
I know I agree with you. But the way it worked out the best for the Blues, because you don't want the 2 minute power play taking up almost the rest of the overtime,
right? With that team. And with
Brody on the breakaway, and his penalty shot was not impressive.
No,
it was not a tough shot, tough save
to make. He did not sell the kick hard enough.
No, not like Nylander. Nylander's move, such a classic hockey breakaway move, right? Mm-hmm. Forehand, backhand, top shelf, lifted. That's probably a hard, if executed properly, if you go forehand, backhand, and tuck it up, up high, probably such a difficult save for the goalie to make unless he knows that move is coming for sure. But it's just, that's a bread and butter for so many guys. It's like it's like the first move that people learn on a breakaway, right? Forehand, backhand score. Fake wrist shot, take backhand. Berube said on Tarasenko after the game on his play in overtime where he was stripped of the puck, he's got to skate, whether he keeps it in the zone, but he's got to know there's pressure coming and just have more urgency there. I think he can just skate and get separation. I think he'd be fine. Essentially, yeah, because Tarasenko was just standing still, gliding more or less. He wasn't doing much. Like he was frozen. Like he didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, I don't know. Just move, just skate. Skate.
Paralyzed by his own mistake.
Yeah. So I've been there. You know, I've been on. Yeah, I've been in the rink before and just in a game. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I just kind of eat it on the boards, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't even, he wasn't even tight enough to the boards to squeeze Nylander off and take a penalty, right? That's right. Probably the right play there is take the penalty. Don't let the fast kid get ahead of you.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not going to fault Bennington on that goal. You know, I didn't think it was Bennington's strongest game. You know, none of the goals were.
I thought the one that beat him, was it near side over the pad under the glove?
The Tavares goal.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of soft.
Marner undressed Letty in the corner.
Yep.
And Tavares was open in the slot. Yeah. I mean, I thought that was the one that he should have had.
I agree.
But there was that late flurry that Toronto had in the third. And
he was excellent in the third.
Four shots in a minute, and he stood his ground, and then he makes the save on Brody, right? He can't, he can't stop everything, especially when you have such a bad mental breakdown by Tarasenko leading to the breakaway. So.
Brian Roberts says in the YouTube chat, that play reminds me of late years of Hitchcock. Players seem overwhelmed with information that they're supposed to do with the puck. Talking about the Tarasenko play, that they freeze. Been noticing it for a while, like not shooting, and he's got two parts, and making a late pass for no reason.
Yep.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, when in doubt, shoot. Right? If you're in the offensive zone and you're like, what do I do? Just shoot. Put it on net. So Sheldon Keefe after the game said, as a general rule, you don't get too critical of these games coming out of the break. Right. You only lose your shit twice on the bench, like it's the cup final. It's so funny. He gets fined because he had such a bad outburst. And after the game, he goes, yeah, you don't get too critical of these games coming out of the break. Like, what are we talking about? Who are you? The guy who was like uber critical? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Take my money, please.
Right. Exactly. Robert Thomas had an assist in this game. He gave him 13 points in his last 13 games. So, I mean, I up and down game for the Blues. They had some breakdowns that cost them a couple goals, some bad decisions, but they played really well at other times too. So kind of up and down game. I thought they played a really good third period. I thought Bennington was money in the third period, made some great saves. And I said this on Twitter when people were down on the Blues saying they're probably gonna lose this game. I'm like, you know what? I mean, we're down by a goal. Yeah, if Bennington plays a good third period, this team has played good at times in this game. They can score a goal in the third period, and they did. And Bennington was really good. And got lucky, hit the post once against Bennington. So, whatever. Got a point out of it. So, and like was mentioned in the chat, 2 points in these two games. It's, that's probably going into it what you'd love to have. Take 2 points out of these two games. So there's that. So after this break from Center Ice Brewery, we're going to talk about the Blues and their play recently, and since the 8-game losing streak earlier this season, and how they're playing. Are they playing better? And if they are, is anybody noticing really? So we'll talk about that after this word from Center Ice Brewery.
Do you like hockey? Of course you do. Do you like beer? Of course you do. Are you 21? Let's hope so. If you answered yes to all of those questions, run on down to your local beer distributor and pick up a 2-4 of Old Arena Lager, the Beauty IPA, or any other delicious hockey-themed beer from Center Ice Brewery. That's right, Center Ice Brewery beer is available at various beer stores around town, so check around for the one closest to you. That's Center Ice Brewery. Let's go Blues!
John Rose says it's the last show of 2022, right? And I didn't even think about that. It is. It's the last show of 2022. We should give out grades. Like, if I had thought about that yesterday, I would have prepared some grades, but I don't have any on hand.
Yeah, and I guess it's also kind of hard to do with roster turnover, right? It's a lot easier to do end of season rather than end of calendar year. I would say if I give one out, it'd be Jordan Kyrou. I'd say he's a high B plus, probably be an A plus, except for he forgot the hockey between February and mid-March.
Was it the yeah, no kidding.
Came back from the All-Star game and couldn't do anything.
So you're talking like the entire calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just thinking this season. And even this season, the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, he was horrendous. He was a ghost.
He was horrendous. Really bad. And he's been really good ever since. It's almost like Kyrou was what we're just talking about. What Tarasenko kind of did. Like Kyrou wouldn't know what to do with the puck. He would get in situations where it was just I'll just pass, or I'll make a move and just try and beat this guy and lose the puck. And it was like you just didn't know what to do with the puck. So, and you saw that game in and game out, and that's why Ponder was wanting to bench him. And people were ripping on him and criticizing the contract. It's a bad time to play poorly right after you sign an 8-year, $8 million per contract. But he'll be fine. So are the Blues playing better? So last 7 games, they have 1 regulation loss. They're 4-1-2 in the last 7. They took 2 cup contending teams to overtime in the last 2 games. Went 3-1-1 on the West Coast trip, beating 2 more cup contenders if you consider Edmonton and Calgary cup contenders. Their only regulation loss in the last 7 games was to Seattle. We talked about earlier, playing pretty good hockey this season. And before that loss, the Blues have won 4 straight. Since the 8-game losing streak ended in November, the Blues are 13-8-3, good for 29 points, which is 8th in the NHL overall in that span. They are 1st in the NHL in goals scored over that span since November 10th, I think it is. 84 goals. Now they've played a few more games than most teams, but still. They're 24th in shots per game taken. So that kind of touches back on how this team played last season, scoring a lot of goals on when they weren't taking the most shots. So their shooting percentages were higher. So Dom's model that was calling that an anomaly, it's kind of, since November 10th, that's kind of how this team has been scoring. They're not getting a ton of shots, but they're scoring a lot of goals. So, maybe that's how this team is. Their shot selection is a little more selective, right? So,
yeah, I think that says a lot, right? That's how teams constructed and how they're coached. We've talked about that, right? Berube doesn't believe in the throw the puck at the net, at all costs, right? Wait for a good scoring opportunity, take your shot then. And I think from time to time, Kyrou and Thomas, and they do suffer a little bit, when pass instead of shoot. I think fans are frustrated by that, but it's got to say something about the talent of this team if we can get back to scoring at a much higher clip on fewer shots, right?
Right.
That's long term. Is that going to be successful? No. In this era of the NHL, it has a chance to be.
The Blues are 7th in goals for per game, since they played a couple more games than everyone else. So first in goals scored, 7th in goals for per game over that span. 12th in power play, which is good. We'll take that. And their PK is 29th over that span at 71.7%. But since December 7th, if you fast forward another month, so over the past 3-4 weeks, their PK is 85.2%, which is 5th best in the NHL. So there are certain aspects of this team that are trending in the right direction. Notably lately, the PK, the power play, 12th in the power play, we can live with that. Although we'd like it to be better because this team can be better on the power play. Although having Krug out is not going to help things a whole lot with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and if the at least short term plan is plugging in Parayko on the power play, we all know that's not going to go well.
No, no, I don't. Just double shift Falk out there on the point. I think the Blues are quietly playing much better hockey. I don't think they're playing at their best, but they're much better than they were earlier in the season. They're not winning 7 games in a row. But they're playing noticeably better. They the last few games, they didn't get the W, but they played well against some really, really good teams. 2 went to overtime, and that matters. The 2 going overtime. You can't just ignore that against good teams, and one of them in their building. Right. So I mean, this is what you want from it. You want a team to play well against good teams, and they did that twice. Just the last 2 games.
Right, and 2 of those games, 2 of the last 3 games, the loss to the Kraken, the shootout loss to Vegas, we were without Jordan Kyrou, right? And and he was a big impact player last night.
Yep.
So you wonder if he's in the lineup, do we get 2 points against Vegas and maybe scrape a point out of Seattle? Right. I think the answer is we're trending in the right direction, which I can't say is all that surprising considering how disappointing the team was to start, how just inconsistent they were. I think they're starting to find their consistency. They're starting to find their rhythm. And you just hope that this long-term injury to Krug isn't going to derail everything.
Right.
But
I think way too many people, including Blues fans, think of this team. I get it. I understand why, but they think of this team that lost 8 straight, and that's who they are. This right now, that's the headline for this team this season. I think is the 8-game losing streak that they had. So people have a hard time forgetting that label was put on them, and it would take a lot to shake that. Even though they have played notably better since that streak. I know Stephen Brown did say that and he's right that saying they played better than the worst streak in team history isn't saying a whole lot. True, but when you compare it against the rest of the team, which I did with those numbers and the stats, the rest of the league, that they're playing much, and just visually, just watching the game, you can tell they're playing better hockey. And they'll take but so we'll see where everything is at the end of the season. They may very well struggle to make the playoffs or not make it. Who knows? But based on how they've been playing over the past month or 2, it shouldn't shock anyone if they actually move up the standings a little bit and make the playoffs. It would not shock me because this team is a playoff caliber team that got off to a horrendous up and down start this season. And they're leveling off a little bit on the good side of that recently. So whether or not it's too late in the season to do what they need to do to get in the playoffs in a good position. That's remains to be seen. And it puts Army in a tough spot whether or not he wants to make a move to sell off Tarasenko or O'Reilly at some point. He's probably going to sit on it and wait at this point because there's no. I mean, he's got until the deadline, right? So,
right. And when O'Reilly popped that snipe last night, all I could think of was, oh, the Toronto media is going to write heavily about this. Oh, they're salivating right now.
That was such a good shot and picking a spot. That was good.
Yeah, he's had a couple of beauties against the Leafs over the last couple of years. Go back to when Freddie Anderson was their goalie, and he had that late backhand shelf partial breakaway goal on him. Oh, beautiful.
O'Reilly still only has 16 points in 35 games, and he's a minus 26. Oof.
Which is unbelievable.
That's bad. And as Kyrou was leading the team, he was right there with him, but Kyrou's knocked his down a little bit to minus 18. I can't. I mean, O'Reilly is a minus 26. That's. I mean, but this team has had its issues this season at times. So the plus minus you need to take with a grain of salt because that's a line stat, and like mixing goaltending with that too. So, that's just weird to see. Let me pull up his career. What's his plus minus for his? Let's see. He's got. Not even close. Last time he was a minus was in Buffalo. Minus 23 is last year in Buffalo. First year in St. Louis and on. So he's a plus 22, plus 11, plus 26, plus 11. That's weird. Every other year, 22, 11, 26, 11, now minus 26. It's weird.
Well, yeah. You have to think that's something that's going to trend in the other direction.
Right.
I think he's we talk about the loss of David Perron, and people say it's way overblown, but I think for a player like Ryan O'Reilly, having that guy that is going to solidify your game and how he's going to play night in night out makes it so much easier. And I think this has been O'Reilly's kind of had to go back and back to the drawing board a little bit and kind of figure out how's he who's he going to play with and how are they what's their chemistry going to be like. I think his chemistry with Perron really was a big thing over the last 3 years coming into the season, but not saying it's the entire story, but for a guy at that point in his career, to lose a solid line mate, the guy you've played with for the better of the last 4 years, it's got to be difficult.
So you can see the changing of the guard this season, obviously, right? With Kyrou and Thomas, they are 1 and 2 on the stat sheet for the Blues in scoring this season. Kyrou with 33 points and Thomas with 32. So, and then you got Tarasenko and Buchnevich following them, then Shen, Falk, Krug, and then O'Reilly. Barbashev and O'Reilly tied in points. Brian Roberts says, my thing is we got 3 UFAs that we can sell off to set up the future. We are going to risk losing all 3, 2 for sure, for what is a first or second round exit. I assume the UFAs are O'Reilly, Tarasenko, and Barbashev.
Yep.
So, So the thing with that is that there's 2 routes here. So with the UFAs, if you don't sign any of them, right, you could either trade them before the deadline and get something for them, or you can. It's always interesting to me when people say that you let them leave and get nothing for them. That's not really true. You can either trade them and get something for them, or you can let them go and use their money to sign someone else, or it depends what you do with that money, right? So it's not really losing them for nothing. You could trade them and then bring in salary in return, or you could let them walk and sign a free agent, or make a trade to bring in more money that you freed up by letting them walk. So I think I wouldn't say it's, you know, losing them for nothing until you see what they do with that extra cap space that they have if they just let an O'Reilly walk or a Tarasenko walk. That would be really strange, though, to have Tarasenko walk, because, I mean, for 2 years now, it's been like he's been traded. And to actually see the deadline pass and him not be traded and see him walk, that'd be kind of weird, because it was thought he was going to be traded for a long time now.
Yeah, and it's, you know, there's this weirdness about, you know, him, and, you know, the fan base. You know, when he first came up, man, he's insane, right? And I'd venture to say that right now there are probably more out of the current Blues roster. There are more Tarasenko jerseys in circulation than any other player, right? Partially because he's been here that long.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I just don't get the sense that the fan base is that much in love with him anymore, right? It's like it's been building up to this idea that he'll be gone, and people are like, yeah, and I at least this is my take. I'm kind of like accepting that it'll happen. I'd rather us move him for assets than, you know, and again, we're talking about the Blues with Doug Armstrong, who might be able to make something work that is more than just bringing in assets. But
right, yeah, and ideally you'd, well, okay. So if he's leaving, then you could move him for some assets, like some picks, prospects, and things, and then use that money to sign somebody else. So you get the best of both worlds. You can sign somebody with that money, or make a trade and bring in somebody with that money that you saved, and also have some assets as far as a pick or two or whatever. That would be nice. However, on the flip side, you keep him, and you know how much of a run would the Blues have to make in the playoffs to make keeping Tarasenko and O'Reilly worthwhile, as opposed to moving them for, you know, a few picks and a prospect or whatever. You know what I mean? So if they were to keep them, how far would the Blues have to go for you to be like, okay, that was a fun run. They needed them to do a conference final. What do you think? I mean, or I mean,
yeah, you'd have to get through to the conference final. Yeah, it couldn't be a first or second round, I guess. Right. Brian Roberts. I agree at this point. You don't want to risk losing them for nothing for, you know, a first or second round exit. I'm still not convinced that, you know, that this team's going to go far. I'm still less than 50%. You know, I have less than 50% belief that they'll even make the playoffs as a wild card team.
I agree with you about not having a lot of faith and they're going to go very far, because they just haven't shown that consistency. There's a lot of games to be played yet, so I mean they could maybe change some minds between now and then. But yeah, as of this point, you're like, if the playoffs started tomorrow and they were, let's say they were in, right, playing a top 2 seed or whatever, I'm like, you know, you can't. Your faith is not very high. So they've got to show some more consistency. They've got to get better in some areas. But like we talked about earlier, I mean that is happening. They got to maintain that for a while. So
Right.
we shall see. And Brian Roberts agrees, I guess, conference finals to make that worthwhile. I bet you there are a lot of people out there too that would say, you know, they'd have to win the cup for it to make it worthwhile. You know, that's, which I understand to some degree. I get it. Army's in a tough spot for some of this stuff, because he's waited and he's played the waiting game with Tarasenko, and now O'Reilly's up 2. I think we all think Barbashev's as good as gone. I don't know. I guess if they lost Tarasenko and O'Reilly, they could probably. I don't know. I haven't done the figures with the cap on because Thomas and Kairu's contracts kick in next year,
And
$8
so
million
does
plus,
Parreko's.
and Parreko's is already in.
No, I thought it was next year when the extension kicks in.
Let's see. Is it really? I thought his extension 8 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This year was the first year of it.
Was it? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that I know that he's not earning it. And I just keep thinking, this is what we've got to look forward to. I guess I'm stuck in last year's mode, but
Well, if you look at the highest paid defenseman in the league, at least he's not making like $10 million. And what's funny about Parayko is that would you be surprised if he did waive his no trade clause and the Blues traded him, if the Blues got a really good return for him? Would you be surprised? I wouldn't.
yeah.
I wouldn't, because I think he's highly regarded across the league as far as what he can bring. I do.
Yeah.
Everyone always talks so highly about him.
Yeah, I think at this point, probably. But you also have to think that a lot of teams have, any team that's going to go into that, unless it's like a package deal with multiple players leaving St. Louis, that the scouting staff's going to have to know, Parayko's not looked that great in the post Pietrangelo era.
Right. No, I agree with you. And I think seeing him play every day, you see his shortcomings more so than maybe somebody who doesn't, which is, other analysts and other people, other national guys. So
Craig Button comes to mind.
Craig Button, yeah. I think he got lucky. He got lucky in his analysis of Parayko. Let's see. Anything else in the chat here? We got here conference finals. Okay, so let's see. What was Brian say? Brian Roberts says, afraid Army uses cap space for another defenseman to try and fix away the problem with another demon. If you want to fix the problem with the defense and nobody waives their no trade clause, you're going to have to add to the defense. There's no, you can't, you know what I mean? You have to. I mean, if Falk, Krug, and Parayko don't waive the no trade clauses, another one of them, then you're going to have to throw another $6-7 million contract at the defense and not replace O'Reilly or Tarasenko with a forward. You know what I mean? So
that's way too much money tied up in the D.
I agree with you, but I mean, if you want to fix the D, if your biggest glaring problem is the defense, what do?
I still think I still think they haven't done the one move that they can do with the D, and that's bring in a different defensive coach, right? Change the structure, right? It's like, I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, who would be a great model, a great guy that's played the game, that had size, had skill, that could come in and replace Van Ryn. It's the best answer is the guy that was here and who's now no longer. I don't think he's even a senior advisor anymore, but Larry Robinson.
Right. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
how old is he? Like 110?
He's got to be in his 70s now.
Yeah, he's getting old.
But yeah, I mean, other, I don't know. I don't know who's out there, and whatever, I know, when McTavish came along, he was, Army talked up his hockey acumen and his hockey knowledge, but it just doesn't, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, right? Stripped of his penalty kill duties pretty quickly.
Gretzky has a ton of hockey knowledge too, but he didn't have the head coaching record to, you know what I mean? He wasn't
right.
So,
perhaps the the biggest thing with him as a head coach to happen in a game was he was the head coach when Alex Ovechkin scored the rollover goal.
Oh yeah. Ken Morris says trade Krug. He is too fragile. I mean, he's got no trade clause. You can't. I mean,
I
people
think he said it
speculate
would-
that he of all the defensemen, he's the guy that would waive it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm not sure what that's. I would tend to agree as well, but I'm not sure where that's coming from. Just speculation, because has he hinted? I don't think he
No,
has.
just
I mean,
he's not a career guy that he
Well, neither
hasn't
is-
been here forever.
here's Falk. I mean,
Yeah, Fox
Pre-
not, but
Preco loves it. From everything you hear, Preco loves it in St. Louis. He doesn't want to go anywhere,
right.
so he's not
And-
waiving his no trade clause anytime soon.
Yeah, and I think with Krug, it's like we were all kind of surprised that he signed here after the summer after the Blues beat his team, right? And I don't know that there's been a love affair with him. He's been in and out of the lineup, with injuries over his time here, and I just don't get the feeling that the fan base feels like he's worked here.
Well, that's because he's the guy that replaced Pietrangelo. That's why.
Yeah. That's why. We said it at the time. We said at the time that he was signed that if that is what if that's what he's going to have to live up to, it's not going to work out. And if that's what we're going to judge by, right? Because Falk was the guy that was brought in during the season that was telegraphing that there's a good chance Pietrangelo is not coming back. And I think there's at least a minor love affair with Falk, right?
Well,
at least with Ash Gibbs.
True. Yeah. Well, yes. However, not at first. That first season here, he was awful. He was so bad, and people. It took a while for them to warm to Falk. He had to be really good for a long time that next season before they finally changed gears with him, and now it's different.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it could probably get there with Krug, but at this point, he just we're what 3 years into it, and that it's still he still just hasn't gotten to that point. I mean, team's much better with him in the lineup. This injury scares the hell out of me for the prospects for the rest of the season, but yeah.
Well, I think this is if Krug is willing to waive his no trade clause, and if Rosen steps in and plays really well and gets a lot of playing time for Krug, that is something you can look at moving forward, right? That this team can play well without Krug running the power play and driving the offense from the blue line. So, yeah, we'll see. But in the past, this team has been better with Krug in lineup. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of worried about that a little bit. But like I said, I do like Rosen. So we'll see. Oh, Ken Morris says make an offer for Luke Shen.
That was odd on that. That got brought up a couple of times.
Yeah.
During the Vancouver game, and I think even in the Kraken game. It's like, what are we trying to rescue him from Seattle from that shitty situation there?
Well, he only makes. I think I remember he's seeing that he makes $850K.
Yeah,
he doesn't make much.
Yeah,
so it's. I mean, if you can get him,
how can he afford to live in Vancouver? That's expensive.
No kidding. Brian Roberts says, "Why not Binnington on defense?"
Ooh, a callback to one of our all-time.
Right.
Why not Binnington?
Prior to Binnington's arrival here, why not Binnington? All right. Well, I think that might wrap up this show. We might have an early exit this week before our show. We're out of topics. So
yeah, and no one more things.
No one more things. I did see Jeff pop up in in the green
Right.
room over here. Yeah. So,
Well-
let me. I was like, no.
Well, he did. I don't know if you saw the Slack chat, but he threw
Yeah.
in there topic we already covered. Late to the
Oh.
show, but
No, I didn't.
yeah,
Did he? Oh,
Toronto flight for early.
Oh,
travel.
yeah. Already on it, Jeff. Had that in the notes. Yeah, that was funny. $100,000.
Obviously not listening, but understandable.
For $100,000 for traveling early, and then $25,000 for his losing his shit on the bench. $125,000. The Maple Leafs organization was fined by the NHL. So just for being Toronto. All right, so that'll wrap it up. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by ID Life, the world's only truly personalized vitamin platform based on a health assessment of your DNA. Visit rockinthatidlife.com for more information. That's rockinthatidlife, and get 10% off by emailing Dustin at rockinthatidlife.com. rockinthatidlife@gmail.com, and tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you. And by Mike Burgoyne from Real Brokers Realty. Visit strikewithmike.com today for all of your home buying and selling needs. That's strikewithmike.com. And by Center Ice Brewery, St. Louis's tasty hockey themed beer. Check out your local beer vendors for availability. That's Center Ice Brewery beer. Please drink responsibly. That'll wrap up episode 14 of season 11 of the original St. Louis Blues Hockey Podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thanks for listening, and thanks to those who participated in the YouTube and Facebook live chats during the live show. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. For the Missing in Action, Jeff Ponder and Bill Day, I'm Kurt Price. Until next time, everyone, let's go Blues.
I think you gave me your cold during the show.
That's impossible.
Let's go Blues.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Cyanosport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available.
A look at sports.
I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio. Now take off, hosers.
I want you to have a heart attack and die so that we never have to do this shit again.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to number one. Now there's no more blues for